Hello, everybody. I'm Ed Parcaut, your host of Helping the Brave. Let's bring in our guest today. Hi, Brian. Hi, Jeff. How you guys doing today?
Good to see you, Ed. How are you, man?
Didn't know you have such a great opener, huh? So, yeah. All right. So I only asked one question on the show. That's every show. What service are we in and why? And we can go alphabetically today.
Yeah, so I was in the Navy, which is my favorite service, and
Of course.
I
Mine
was
too.
I was a submarine officer on a fast attack submarine stationed in the Pacific. So got to drive around doing cool like hunt for Red October stuff, and like we talked about sort of on the pre-show, the Navy's just a great opportunity to meet people all over the world. Visited a lot of different countries and met a lot of folks, and did some pretty cool stuff while I was in.
Why did you pick the Navy? Was there any reason?
Yeah, I got a ROTC scholarship, so it was a great deal. Anybody that's looking for an opportunity to serve their country, but also get an education at a great price, then you should look into the opportunities of the military service academies or an ROTC. With the ROTC scholarship, they pay for 4 years of college, and in exchange, you serve your country afterward. But it's a fantastic program because you can go to so many different universities. And then when you get out, you have a job. You have no debt, no college debt. You're thrust into a leadership position right out of the gate. And at 22 years old, I'm driving a $6 billion submarine. So what other opportunity affords you that?
Don't know. Hey, what microphone are you using? Is it on the desk?
It is.
Can you bring it a little bit closer to you, or are you a little bit closer to getting a little echo?
Sure.
Yeah. All right, Jeff. What service are we in and why?
Yeah, so I was in the Navy. Why Navy? To be honest, I don't think I ever really considered any other branch. To me, I come from a military family, so a lot of people have served. My dad was in the Air Force. When I think of the military and I think of the pointy tip, that's the Navy to me, right? So at the time that I went in, it was peacetime Navy. So the people that were out there the closest to the action was the Navy, and they were out there at the pointy tip of the spear. So I guess that's why I selected it. I don't know. In retrospect, that must be why. So yeah.
There's no right or wrong reason. I had a lady on here who picked the service was because they took her out for a steak dinner.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So there's no right.
Office was near my house, right?
Yeah. I was in the Navy. I was a corpsman, and I joined because they were the ones who guaranteed what I was going to do. Yeah. So that's the difference. I got my bachelor's and master's while I was in, so it's all works out.
There you go.
This is a little different, and normally I only have one person on the show. Don't normally do two at once. So my question is, how did you guys meet? Was it in the Navy or after the Navy?
Yep. Commonly, people assume we knew each other in the Navy because we're a Navy duo writing these books. But we actually met as writers. So we were both post-service. We were both writing individually, and we met at a writer conference for our genre of thrillers. The biggest conference in the world is the International Thriller Writers that meets every year in New York. And we were debut authors in the same class. And to be honest, I always joke that he was a stalker because he's a submariner. So of course he was, right? But the truth is I kind of was. So I met Brian at the opening reception because I sat in my hotel room that evening with my wife, looking through this big book of all the people that were going to be there, trying to pick out other veterans so I would have something to talk about, right? Like, you know how it is, especially when you're shortly post-service. And at the time I was still doing some other stuff. What am I going to talk to some other dude about? Like, I'm like memorizing the picture, the faces of okay, he was in the Navy and this guy was in the Army and this guy was this. And I saw Brian, we went down to the reception. We'd been there like 5 minutes and I saw him. Now this part is true. He was sitting by himself looking sad. And that's how I knew it was him because it said he was a submariner. So, okay, the guy crying in his beer, that must be him. So I went over and introduced myself and we just hit it off. So that's that story. Mostly true.
Is that true, Brian?
Mostly true. Yeah. Especially the stalking part. I think that resonates. What's great about sort of post war on terror is that you have a whole community of military folks, veterans that, transitioned out of the military, going to civilian life. A lot of them are entrepreneurs. A lot of them have stories to tell. And so, Jeff and I are not unique. We're not the only guys that showed up at the ITW conference. I mean, you have Don Bentley and Jack Stewart, and there's dozens of other guys who have, exited the military, but now are storytellers and professional storytellers for a living. And it's become a great community of veteran storytellers. And sort of we bring the same ethos that we brought to our military service to this community of storytellers, where we support and lift each other up. And it's been quite a journey.
How long have you guys been writing? I'm going to go with Jeff.
I've been writing. So my story is a little different than Brian's. I've literally been writing my whole life. So I can't remember not writing. Like when I was a little kid, I was writing stories based on, fan fiction for my favorite TV shows. Published my first short story when I was like 13 or 14. So I don't ever remember a time of my life where I wasn't creating stories and writing them down. I started writing novel length stuff and thinking, well, maybe I could actually be a novelist. Probably 15 to 18 years ago, something like that, 20 years almost maybe now, and got a couple of books published before I met Brian. And then our career really took off after we started writing together. And that was when I was able to be more of a full-time writer. And that's all we do now.
Yeah. So I just tell stories. I don't write them. And so Brian, how long have you been writing?
Yeah, I didn't start writing until I got out of the Navy, but I do think there is something interesting that happens during military service inside the communities. You've got a whole bunch of verbal storytellers, sort of hearkening back to just the sitting around the campfire telling stories to entertain each other. When you're deployed and you're away from home and you don't necessarily have always access to the internet or entertainment, storytelling is a way that people bond and we communicate and share our lives together. And so, on the submarine, there were many hours on watch, especially in the engineering spaces in maneuvering when, you 6-hour watch, maybe you're not changing the bell. Maybe you're doing 5 knots the whole watch and nothing exciting is going on. And so, we would swap stories. And so I sort of became a collector of stories. When I'd go to port and connect with folks, I'd ask them if they had any good stories and I'd save them all up. And then when we go underway, I'd tell stories that were funny or interesting or scary. And when I left, one of the guys on the boat was like, "Hey man, you're a pretty good storyteller. Did you ever think about writing a book?" And I said, "No, I never thought of that." But he put that bug in my ear. And so then eventually I started writing.
Because you guys Jeff, you got in what, the late 80s? Because you said peacetime.
Well, I was in and out. So I was in the mid to late 80s, went in to pursue aviation and got in a motorcycle accident, got out. And then I worked for some.
Yeah, I wasn't going that route. I just was
other parts of the federal government for a while.
And Brian, you were in what time? When did you go in?
96 to 01.
Well, the reason I'm bringing it up, you said internet. That really wasn't around for most of us when we were in the service.
Yeah, but the vast majority of my military service, certainly all of my wartime service, was from about 2002 until 2012. So
you got out and then you went back in.
Yeah, I went back in.
But I was trying to figure out when everybody was in.
Yeah. So I was in for a short time initially. Then I went and did other things in the other parts of the government. And then I went back into the Navy in 1997 as a reservist and went on active duty in 2002.
Gotcha. I interviewed a guy he went in the Army as a veterinarian at 57.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
He had to get a waiver, and he got that waiver and he was in for 10 years, which was unheard of. And he was deployed 4 times. Yeah. And this is he just got out a little bit ago. So it was this last real war. And so it was just, I was like, we've never heard of that, but he got waivers and everything else because that is one specialty they really need for dogs.
Yep.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
So there's another story for you. You can talk about an old guy getting in the Navy.
There you go.
Army or something. Yeah.
That'll add to all our dog stories.
That's right. How many dog stories do you have?
I got a few dog stories.
Okay.
I got a story about digging a dog tooth out of a bad guy femur bone once, but we'll say that. We'll save that for another day.
All right. So what was your guys' first project? Because I see Tom Clancy behind both of you guys. Did you guys work on a Tom Clancy book?
We write the Jack Ryan series for the Clancy estate now. So we're the newest, that he passed away 13 years ago. And then Mark Graney took over the series at the estate's request. And there's been a couple authors, Mark Cameron most recently. And then when he hung it up, the estate and Tom Colgan, the editor, asked if we would take it over. So we've written 3 of those now. The third one comes out in a few months. So yeah, we write those. And then we've written the one that started our career together as Andrews and Wilson is a series called Tier 1. So that was the first book we wrote together, was that first book in that series. So we're finishing up the 10th book, Brian? 10th book in that series. About halfway through that, we spun off a shared universe series called Sons of Valor from the Tier 1 series. We have a series called the Shepherd series, which is a little bit different. It's an action thriller, kind of military, but with some spooky supernatural elements and faith elements in it. So that series has got 4 books. I don't know. We're all over the place. So
yeah, because of the Shepherd.
We've been doing it for a bit. Yeah, the Shepherds. That's right.
Yeah, I mean the faith-based.
Yep.
So the Sons of Valor series, that is the false flag one that
just came out.
Yeah. And is that released right now?
Came out last Tuesday.
Yep,
okay.
Last Tuesday.
Okay. Good. So I'll make sure I'll
You
move.
told me, I was like a deer in the headlights. I was like, Brian, did it come out? Like,
It did.
That's the problem with. So it's a little weird to have 4 books a year, for an author to have 4 books a year come out. We've been doing that consistently now for the last several years, and we're about to slow the pace a little bit because with the film and television stuff, it's just getting to be too much. But
stop right there. What film and TV stuff? Well, you just threw it out there, so I have to stop you right there before we keep going, because I know you'll keep talking and keep going down, and I'll have to come all the way back.
Yeah, and then we have to circle all the way back. Okay, so we have I don't know, 12.5 projects in various stages of development in both film and television, including the Tier 1 series, which has been optioned by Legendary and is in development as a streaming series with Peter Johnson and Marcus Blakely attached to produce. We have a TV series in development based on the Shepherd series. We have a feature film that we're in partnership with Mark Evans and his business partner, John Steinberg. We're developing that as a feature film called 4 Minutes, based on one of our books, one of our speculative books. Anyway, we got a bunch. We got a whole lot of different.
Well, I don't think people know that. And so I just wanted to bring it up so people would know that.
Okay. Sorry.
No, appreciate you. I mean, nothing is actually streaming at the moment. So
we have nothing else. It's going to be a crazy year.
Yeah, everything's in different stages of development.
And who knows? They can always table it for a period of time, unfortunately.
Yeah, and then what our experience has been, there'll be nothing will happen, and then everything will happen at once, and we won't have time to do everything we have to do. That's how our entire career has been so far. So we anticipate that will be the case here as well.
Well, I mean, think about it. Looking back, did you ever think you'd be here?
I don't think I really thought about it. I mean, I just was writing stories because they were fun, and then I think, Brian, when did you start this? I'm not trying to interview Ed, but Brian, when did you think, hey, we're really going to do this?
Yeah.
Well, I would say, we sort of had a sort of come to Jesus moment after Red Spectre, where we sort of decided we had to go. That was book 5 in Tier 1. And we sort of had to decide if we wanted to go all in or not. And I think, Ed, you probably have talked to so many veteran entrepreneurs, you'll hear this sort of similar story. But, somewhere around year 5, I think in a lot of businesses, you're starting to say, is this going to work or is this not? Am I banging my head against the wall? Is this just me making the same mistake over and over again? And then, I'm not making progress, or, is being tenacious and persistent, going to pay off? And I think every entrepreneur stares into the sort of the barrel of that gun. And so I think for us, it's typically around year 5. And you really, the only way you can really make it is you have to go for it. You have to really risk. And that means stepping away from your comfort zone. In our case, it means saying, all right, we're going to try to do this full time. And you have to invest personal capital. And in our case, it means stepping away from that job that's paying the bills and using your savings to fund your venture forward into being professional authors. And we made partnerships, and we took some risks, and we agreed maybe to write more books than we thought we could possibly write. But it paid off. And now here we are 4 years later, or 5 years after that decision point, because we're like at year 10 now together as a partnership. And things are busier and crazier than ever.
And it's still growing. What people don't realize is that, they don't know the struggle, they don't care about the struggle that you went through to get to where you're at. They only care about where you're at. Yeah. And that's and I find that being a business owner, and everybody I talk to, it's 15 years of struggle, and everybody thinks it's overnight success. Yeah. Because you guys, before you got together, you were doing your own stuff. And then they got together and they did it for what I'm hearing 5 years, and then 10 years later. So it takes a while to build a brand, to build everything that you're trying to do. And there's many times it gets torn down or something changes all the way through, and you have to retool, redo that. And I don't think people understand that. But the positive thing is, being from the military background, they make some of the best business owners. 50% of vets are business owners. Yeah. And that's the difference. And people don't understand that. What you learn in the military helps you in business.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think, Brian was talking about that 5-year mark. It was true for us in writing, just on the creative side, just as much as any other business. The difference, what happens at that 5-year mark is you have, like Brian was saying, you decide, do I go all in? Well, the difference between veterans and some other demographic in our society is they're more likely to say, yeah, I'm all in. I'll take that risk. I mean, there is a risk, right? So, I mean, you write one book a year, you can supplement your income, but you need to really be all in. You talked about brand building. That's right. That's a full-time job. And I think some people get to the point where they say, I could take this chance and maybe it'll work out, but I don't have the stones for that. I'm not going to do that. I can't risk it. And so there's probably plenty of people out there in our business who could have been just as successful as us, but they doubted it, or they just weren't willing to take that chance. We were lucky that it worked out. I mean, maybe it wouldn't have, and then that'd have been really bad, I guess.
But. Yeah, and I think we also talked about this at the time that happened. We're both married, and both of our spouses absolutely said to us, like, no way, individually, my wife came to me, she's like, no way, I'm letting you step away from this now. You're so close. Yeah. And, as a dad and a husband, and especially if you're the primary breadwinner, to say, well, I'm going to step away from this security and this job that provides cash flow for my family and stability to maybe go on this flyer that may or may not work because I want to be a famous book writer. Like, does that, I think the responsible person, especially the guy with discipline and honor and all the integrity and all that stuff, from your military standpoint, you're like, this is not the responsible decision to make. And the fact that my wife was like, absolutely not. I've supported you this long, and I'm going to support you longer. And when she said that, I remember telling Jeff, I'm all in. He's like, I had practically the same conversation last night myself. And so having that mandate from our spouses, that was like the adrenaline shot that powered us into the next phase of the career.
So, all right. I mean, because that's, people don't understand. I mean, you're building a business. It's a totally, besides having the talent to write, you now are also building a business. And since I'm brought up writing, I just have a question. How do you guys work together on writing the stories? Do you guys pick each certain characters that you build out, or how do you do that?
Well, it's, we usually joke that I write the nouns and he writes the verbs, but no one believes us. So it is weird. There's a handful of people doing what we do, and everyone does it a little differently. So the way we do it may not work for you if you're thinking about doing it, but we literally are a 50-50 partnership in every phase of writing. So we write, once we plot the story out, which we do together, which sounds like a, mature process. It's not. It's more like two kids in the backyard. Dude, what if this happened? So it's a little bit of that. And then once we get the story sort of arced out, we just sit down and start writing, and we do it simultaneously. So you mentioned character and point of view. We do split up that, but we go back and forth. So we divide our book into 3 acts. In act 1, maybe I'm writing, Chunk, and he's writing Whitney and that kind of thing. But we write at the exact same time. So we're writing chapters simultaneously. And then every time a chapter or 2 is done, he sends his to me, I send mine to him, and the other person rewrites it entirely. And that's where the military part comes in, to be honest with you. It's that team and mission before self. There's no ego. I don't have to call Brian and say, hey, I'm thinking about changing this. I can delete paragraphs. I can change the entire thing. I don't need permission, and vice versa. It's a trust thing. I trust that he's going to make mine better, and he trusts I'll make his better. And so that is where that teamwork sort of comes in, and maybe why there's not a lot of people doing it that way. But we literally write at the same time, and every book is written 50-50, and both of us has touched every single chapter, because if I didn't write the first draft, I rewrote it a day later. So that's our system. Most writers hear that and they go, you don't really do that. There's no way that could work. But for whatever reason, it works for us.
Well, you guys are secure with your writing, right? Like you just said, there's no ego. It's about the project, not about the individual bringing it together. It's about what you're creating together. I've done a couple podcasts, by the way, so I understand.
That's exactly, you hit the nail right on the head. It's like Brian uses the parenting analogy. It's not like me and my wife have 4 kids. I don't raise 2 and she raises 2. We raise them together. There's no, oh, your kid, right? Like, oh, you might say it sometimes, but in general, the 2 of you are going to try to turn out the best human being that you possibly can. And that's the way we approach writing. So yeah, you're exactly right, Ed.
Well, the little difference is sometimes with your kids, you might not be on the same page. That's the difference.
Yeah, that's for sure.
And your wife has the youngest is her favorite, whether she tells you or not. It's always that last one. I don't care what they say. And my wife says it depends on what they did that day, which is the best one. They're all gone, thank God. My son's in the Army, airborne.
Well, nice.
Yeah, but back to you guys. All right, so with the recent one that it sounds to me like it's so hard for you to keep track of how many books you got going and every series you have going. Where am I at today? How do you keep track of all this?
Well, we have the 3 main series that are our own characters, our own intellectual property. So Tier 1, Sons of Valor and Shepherds, and then Clancy. That's all those characters, and the canon is all owned by the Clancy estate. And there's some guardrails about what you can and can't do in the Jack Ryan universe. So that one we sort of consider it's kind of in its own bucket over here, where, we're good stewards of those characters and that canon. But in the other 3 series, we can do whatever we want, and we can publish them at whatever interval that we want. So, Blackstone's our publisher. It's like a family. We love those guys. And, what we do is we sort of sit down and map out the next 12 to 18 months typically, and say, okay, what's the order of publication going to be? It's been, 12 months since the Sons of Valor. Okay, so we're going to slot one of those in, let's say 12 months later. It's been 18 months since we've done a Shepherds, or, we sort of look at it. We try not to go any longer than 18 months between installments. Sometimes we'll be 9 months. It sort of just depends on where the sales momentum is and what other things, we've got going on in our schedule. The Clancy schedule is pretty locked in stone. So sometimes we have to slot books in around when the Clancy books are coming out. And so, anyone who is a fan and is listening, and we see a lot of reviews that'll say, when's the next one coming out? Don't worry, we want it to come out too. We're excited to write the next Tier 1 or Sons of Valor or Shepherds, whichever one you're dying for next. Believe me, it's on our mind.
Well, I find that in order to make money as a writer, it's a series that you guys make money off of. It's, if you don't have a series, you don't make money. I wrote a book, Financial Freedom, Building Personal Wealth Through Home Ownership. It wasn't about making money. It was about getting the word out, how I do things in the mortgage industry and how to help people get homes. But if you want to build a brand and you have to do a series, some type of series. That's where you make your money. Am I correct in that analogy?
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, there are a few people who do some wildly successful series of standalones. It can be done, but it's a lot harder. And it's harder now than ever, because now the publishers are looking for, they don't invest in a book, they invest in a career. So they look at you and you have the best book they ever read. They may not buy it until you give them an answer of what's coming behind that. Nobody wants a one-hit wonder. It's too much money to launch a writing career for the publisher. So yeah, series definitely, that's the secret to success. There are exceptions, but it's definitely the best path.
Have you guys ever self-published a book?
We did. So initially, when we started out, we were like, we want to experiment in every bucket, right? We want to see where we can grow the brand in different ways. We did, when we left Thomas and Mercer, we did one book that was sort of a hybrid. So we self-published the Kindle and print, but we partnered with Blackstone, because we were early in our relationship with them, to do the audio. That was a really cool way to do it, because they had a built-in machine for promoting audiobooks, which then fed the promotion for the rest. I've self-published one book that was part of I lead a men's military ministry for a large church in Southwest Florida in Tampa. And that book was really, like you were saying, it wasn't part of the career. It was about getting that book out and available to various churches that we were partnering with, because it was a book that was going to help people. So I've done that. Didn't have a lot of commercial success, but wasn't looking for it too. Right. So a little bit, but not much. We've been mostly in the traditional model.
And so you have a publisher that they own. So people don't understand the difference between self-publishing. You own the rights to your words and everything about it. When you get a traditional publisher, they own everything.
No, not necessarily.
No. Well, hold on. Traditional publishing realm, there is also a hybrid model where.
Well, no, a traditional publishing contract, you retain the copyright and you own the intellectual property, the rights to the characters, and so the publisher owns the work, the published novel. But if you say tomorrow that, at least these are the types of deals that authors should pursue. So just so you know, I mean,
I have different, because in the business model world where they're doing business books, I know people who, when they wrote a book and it was published, the content inside there, they couldn't promote that content any longer.
Yeah,
so it's probably different than what you guys are doing.
Every contract is different, and so you don't have to sign that contract if you think that's not going to be advancing you. So, for example, a lot of publishers, when you first start with them, they want to they're going to have the publication rights in English, right? That's a standard contract. A lot of them will say, well, we want the foreign rights too, and we want the video game, and we want, they try to take all the rights. That doesn't mean they have to have them, and you can give them to them or not give them to them. You can walk away from that contract. And so we actually have probably put more effort into the business side of fiction writing than most people, because we knew that we had this multimedia model that we wanted to expand, as we now have. And so we've always been highly intentional of saying, okay, you can have the English rights. If you're really into foreign rights, let's talk about what a split looks like. Maybe we share it. Maybe it's 50-50. Maybe it's 70-30. Video games, okay, well, you can have 20 per, and so you can negotiate however you want, and that's true in all books. But maybe they walk away and then you don't have a publishing contract. So yeah, there's a million different ways to do it. We work with a lot of young authors, so we see what publishers are trying to get and what we know they have to get. And we have a lot of friends that are at the same level as us, and every contract is different. So we're very intentional about preserving our rights. We need the film rights. We need the television rights. We need the video game rights. We can do some splits. Hey, you bring the deal to the table, then you get a taste. If you don't, then you get zero. Like, there's 1,000 ways to do it. But if you're smart, especially in fiction, You're going to work very hard to retain those rights and to build a contract out that rewards you for success, bonuses, increase royalty rates as you bump up. So after 25,000 book sales, my royalty rate goes to this. And a lot of authors don't spend any time doing that because no one told them to. They just don't know. And that's why we encourage people, if you're starting out, find a writer, go to a conference, find people that are in your genre and ask them, hey, what should I be doing? Because you don't know until you know. Writing a book is not the hard part. The business side is the hard part because nobody teaches it to you.
And before I go, you said you work with writers. Do you guys do coaching with writers? Do you have a publisher thing that you do? I just heard something I wanted to key in on.
Yeah, it's not formally. So what we do is we're very active with international thriller writers. We meet young up and coming writers, some of them unpublished, that come to this conference to learn about it. And especially we have an affinity, of course, for fellow veterans. So most, not all, but most of the people we work with tend to be veterans. And so if they're working on it, we partner with them and we can help them learn the business side. Okay, I've got a manuscript. What do I do now? What does a query letter look like? We may introduce them to other authors or to publishers or to agents or whatever. So yeah, it's not a formal thing that we have through our publisher. It's just like there were people that reached down and lifted us up when we were debut authors. John Land, Lee Child, well, it's a huge list that goes on. And Mark Rainey was doing well. And now we need to do the same thing. So it's just really about paying it forward. So yeah, not a formal program, but yes, we do that a lot.
So you guys sit around, play poker like on Castle?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Doesn't everybody?
All the writers. Yeah. Talking about your books.
Yeah.
He's going Castle. What the heck's Castle? All right. No, I just heard that because I mean, I've talked to a bunch of people who write, not where your level is. And I just think there's a lot of veterans who want to write books. And if they had an avenue to get help, it would be nice to have that out there for them. I do a firewalk for veterans twice now. I did a first one in last year and then one this year, which is basically we have a motivational speakers for a couple hours, and then at the end of the night they walk on coals to get their purpose, and it's helped out a lot. It helped a lot of veterans in the last 2 years, and we're going to grow it even more this next year. So I'm always looking to find ways to up them and have people get involved. So if you guys do formalize something, let me know.
For sure. And what I can tell you is there are a few of those out there that are veteran centric.
But they're not
YouTube. Think of them off the top of my head, but I'll try to. When I do find some, I'll send them right to you, Ed.
I appreciate it. And let me point out also, there's a website that any aspiring authors can go to. It's called careerauthors.com. I'm one of the principals there. It's simply an organization of authors and agents and editors who are just trying to give back to the community. All the content there is free. And it's basically the five of us just giving away our secrets, like everything that we've learned. And then we have guest authors. Jeff's done a couple of posts, Don Bentley, all the big names have done contributions completely for free. And you can literally find an article about everything there. Do with the craft, publishing, marketing, editing, query letters, everything. And so the reason I mention this is because there are some folks out there that are trying to take advantage of people's dreams. A lot of people have a dream of writing a book, and because it's so personal, they're willing to spend sometimes thousands of dollars to get advice that from somebody who's unscrupulous. So there are unscrupulous organizations and individuals who prey on aspiring authors. So that's why Jeff suggested going to a conference. There you're going to network with actual writers who are going to steer you in the right direction. And like I said, career authors, all the content is free. And so a lot of that stuff that maybe someone's trying to charge you $2,500 for, it's already out there.
And the problem is veterans are trusting.
Yes.
And that's our problem. And that's why I'm trying to find when someone's listening to this and they're thinking about writing, I want to send them to the right place to get that information. So
they can email us.
What's that?
Responsive.
What's the name of that website again?
Andrew, the Career Authors. Career Authors is
.com.
Yep.
Okay. And then all right. So since you threw it out there, you got an email you want to throw out there if somebody has questions for you guys? Yeah,
people can reach out to us directly, and we do answer. I don't know if we answer every email, but it's pretty damn close. So if you go to our website, it's andrews-wilson.com. There's a link there to send us a message. And I don't know. We're not 100%, but we've got to be pretty close.
We eventually get to everybody.
We eventually get to everything.
But eventually we get to everything.
If you said something super, super ugly and didn't get a reply, we read it. We just didn't think it deserved a reply. But but we do get authors, especially veterans, reach out and ask for advice, and we do reply to those. So for sure, your listeners can reach out to us through the website, and we will point them in the right direction if we can't help them ourselves.
I appreciate that. All right. Anything I haven't asked you, I should have asked you today?
No, I just think the only thing I would add, and Jeff, you can go next, but I would just add that, we have also made partnerships with other veteran entrepreneurs. So Bone Frog Coffee, Tim Cruikshank's business out of Washington State, Declan James Watches, Navy SEAL founded that company. So, these are companies that, we all can cross promote, right? We can all help each other build our brand and build our audience. Discovery is one of the biggest, most challenging elements of starting your business, is finding customers, getting the word out, and marketing is so expensive. And so if you have other veterans like us who can give you a partner page in your book, or you can partner with at events and conferences and co-promote, makes a big difference. So if you're a veteran entrepreneur, look for other veteran entrepreneurs. They might not be in the same business as you, but you would be amazed at the amount of complementary activities and opportunities that you'll find.
Yeah, I think that's right. And the only thing I would add is the same thing, but it may be a slightly different spin. When the hardest part of transitioning, and the three of us know this, and everyone that's listening to your podcast knows it as well. The hardest part of transition is when you're done, you lose an enormous part of both your community and your identity. In the military, what you do and is who you are, and you lose that. And I think that veterans tend to forget that they're not the first ones to do that, and that there's an entire community still out there. So just because you left your unit or your squadron or your team doesn't mean there isn't a new unit, squadron, or team out there who are doing the same thing, transitioning to a new phase of life, a new season of life, a new business opportunity. Seek those people out, because that team before self, it's still out there in the veteran community. They want to help you. They want to learn from you. They want to teach you. And that's what we tried to do at Andrews and Wilson. We've tried to partner. He mentioned Tim Cruikshank and Declan James, and then a lot of the charity organizations we work with. That's why we needed help when we transitioned to this weird life of being a civilian. And you're no different. We're all in this together. So find your new tribe and find your new team. They're there waiting to help you.
Yeah. When I did the firewalk, I was talking a bunch, because one of the guys I had to come over was talking about, we have a boot camp in, but we don't have a boot camp out. And that's something we need. So after the last firewalk, I actually sat down and created that. It's called CivOps Academy. I'm in the process of getting everything that we've lost through the process of getting out. Purpose, community, all the things is what I'm putting together there for one place to go, so people can go to one place and find all the information they need.
When you get that done, Ed, let us know. We'd love to help you get the word out about it, help spread the word about it however we can.
Yeah, it's, how it is. It's one more thing on my plate, but when I got done with the firewalk, it was front and center, because all the people walking across coals and all the different things happened. So I sat down and just blew, and then sent it to my VAs, and they did the whole thing. It's a beautiful site, except it looks a little Army, which I'm okay with the colors, but what are you going to do? My son's Army, I have to let it go. But I know I didn't get into your book, but what you guys do, I think, is so valuable for veterans to understand that they possibly can do the same thing if that's something they want to do, or get in that next step. Right before you guys came on, I interviewed a 91-year-old vet who wrote a book about his Naval Academy class. And that class went to the moon, was in Hanoi, Hilton, all over the game. There were so many of those guys in his class, and he wrote a book about it. It was pretty, so everybody's trying to do things, but not at your level. And I appreciate it, you coming on here and telling your stories.
Anytime, Ed. Anytime at all. Anything we can do for you or any of your listeners, we're here.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much for coming on the show today and telling your stories.
Thanks for having us.
Don't go anywhere.